right now that we're speaking with our Katherine Dow, once again out and about exploring the Folklorama pavilions. Where are you this morning, Katherine?
I'm at the Scandinavia Pavilion, and really, if you want to get out to Folklorama, this is the best bang for your buck because they call it a mini United Nations. Of course, Scandinavia representing 5 different countries, now all under one roof. So, of course, we have Norway, Sweden, Iceland, Finland, and I'm forgetting one, of course, Denmark, of course, as well. So each one has a different cultural display, and this year the theme is Explorers. I'm in the Swedish cultural display, and they're highlighting, this is a setup kind of like what a tent would have been of 3 different Swedish explorers. One is Eva Lindström. She's a pretty amazing woman. She's a travel writer, a balloonist, an aviator. So this is kind of what you might have seen in her tent. And then Solomon August Andre, he was a balloonist, and Otto, who is also an explorer, who was one of the first to explore the Antarctic over the winter. So a bit of a cold one, so he's got a lot of gear there for the winter months. So all throughout the show, we're going to be learning more about what they have in store, including some of the amazing entertainment. We're going to be getting a performance from some of the folk dancers, and of course the food. We have Swedish meatballs, herring, and red cabbage. Stick around, we have all that fun coming up later in the show.
Lots of culture to come. Thanks for that, Katherine.
One smart cookie, that's for sure. Well, coming up on CTV Morning Live, cameraman Kenny and Katherine Dow hanging out at the Scandinavian Pavilion. They're learning a little bit of Viking history, it appears. We'll find out more coming up. All right, Katherine is back now. She's at the Scandinavian Cultural Center this morning. We just saw before the bump there, Katherine, you and Kenny were having some fun in a photo booth. Do they have that up for anyone to use?
Yeah, it's totally free, so that's music to Winnipeggers' ears. That's the Vikings photo booth. You can go get your picture taken with all those fun props like Kenny and I did. Joining me now to tell me a little bit about what else they have planned here is Selma Parsons. She is the pavilion treasurer. You say this is like a mini United Nations because you have 5 countries kind of under one roof.
Yeah, it's 5 different countries that have been joined through history, like various times. Sometimes they've been fighting with each other. Sometimes they've been under same rulers, but they have shared history. And so when they came here to Canada, they actually elsewhere in the world, they're part of the Nordic countries. And so they do a lot together now. And here we have our own building here that we have here on 764 Erin. And during Folklorama, we turned it into the Scandinavian Pavilion.
And you guys are one of the original 4 pavilions dating back to the first ever Folklorama.
That's what I understand. We were one of the first ones that were here at the time when it was I guess it was just a street festival the first year, and we were one of those, and we're one of the, I believe it's 4 now, that have operated continuously ever since.
So we're in the Norway cultural display, and every different country has their own cultural display. This year you guys have a specific theme.
Yeah, the theme this year is Explorers, and it's from the Viking age to the space age, because we have, of course, Vikings were Nordic people. They were the Norwegians, the Danes, the Swedes, and to the Icelanders and to Canada, and so that's the Vikings, and all the way to the space age, because there's one of the Canadian astronauts is of Icelandic background.
So you have a lot of repeat customers that come back year after year.
Oh yeah, we've got our regulars because they come for the food and stay for the exhibits. And there's so much different. Every year we change our exhibit, so it is every year it's a little bit different. So we have a different theme every year, and so the exhibits are different every year.
Wonderful. Well, stick around because we're going to be getting a performance from the Scandia Fun Folk Dancers, and of course we're going to be hearing about the food, Swedish meatballs, European hot dogs. My stomach is already grumbling.
Our Katherine Dow remains on the Folklorama tour, and she's at the Scandinavian Pavilion where they're celebrating the Icelandic culture, even Vikings.
Yeah, and I'm learning a lot about Scandinavia in general. So it's 5 different countries: Iceland, Norway, Finland, Sweden, and of course Denmark. And there's a lot of things I didn't know. So for example, Lego, very popular toy. It's Danish, and the name Lego derives from the Danish word for play well. So there's a Lego station here. I also didn't know that Danes are the leading consumers of candy. So there's tons to explore here. Each country has their own cultural display, so they call it like a mini United Nations. Also, this pavilion is one of the original 4. So the first year Folklorama, they were here celebrating their culture. Coming up later in the show, in just a couple minutes actually, we're going to have a performance from the Scandinavia Fun Folk Dancers. They're going to be doing a traditional Danish folk dance called the Half Chain. And of course, the food is the big draw here. We're going to be hearing about what they're serving. Swedish meatballs, European hot dogs, lots of pork open-faced sandwiches. It's a tough assignment, but someone's got to do it, so I'll be bringing that to you all show long. Tough gig.
Right, and the music behind you isn't bad either. It's got me tapping my feet. All right, thanks for that, Katherine. Checking back in with Katherine Dow out at the Scandinavian Pavilion this morning, and as we saw, we went to commercial. We saw some great dancing going on.
Yeah, you know what, I'm out of breath just watching them because it takes a lot of energy, and they've woken up very early to show us a little bit of the dancing. Joining me now is Jane Meach. She is one of the instructors with the Scandinavia Fun Folk Dancers. We're talking a bit off camera. The dancing in your family is a tradition. It goes on through a couple generations.
Absolutely, absolutely.
What's your background with it? How did you get involved?
I'm Danish, born in Denmark, and really started out with my parents joining the Folklorama. And my daughter started dancing, and next thing you know, I was there too.
So joining, and you said they needed someone to stand in place, and next thing you know, you were joining the dance group.
I was, yes, and I really didn't know what I was doing, but my partner pulled me through.
Wonderful. And so we're getting a little demonstration now from some of the dancers. What kind of dance are they showing us?
This is called, it's a Danish dance, and it's called Den halve kage, which means a half chain.
And so this is something that people can see when they visit the pavilion, but there's a lot more entertainment than this dancing as well.
Absolutely. This is actually not one of the dances we're doing this week.
Okay.
Just because it's so early in the morning, the rest of the troupe is sleeping.
This is a 4-person dance, gotcha. So what other kind of dances do they perform for the crowds here?
So one of our specialties is called a weaving dance, mill, and it shows the process of how to make the homespun, the cloth. So right from gathering the sheep through the finished product. So they gather the sheep, they shear the sheep, they wash the fleece, they card the wool, and then they put it on the loom and make the cloth, pull it off, and show off their product.
Wonderful. We're going to stop talking, let you enjoy this dance. And this is the Scandinavia Fun Folk Dancers.
Katherine, we've officially broken the record for the amount of times we've said Swedish meatballs on this show. Are we going to see some?
You know what, they're so popular, they're actually sold out, but they have a huge spread that they've assembled for us here at the Scandinavian Pavilion. Joining me now is the food coordinator here, Janice Chase. You guys start preparations all the way back in May, and you have tons of volunteers lending a hand.
Yes, we do, yeah. We do our Vina Torta back in May, and we make our meatballs and our red cabbage and freeze it so that it's all ready for it to go.
So we're starting off with open-faced sandwiches, which are a big part of the menu here. What are we seeing right here?
We're making a shrimp sandwich. We start off with an assembly line, and we have people cutting and buttering the bread. Then we put the lettuce on it, then we put the shrimp on it, and then the garnish goes on top. So it's quite a process that we have a lot of people that assemble this. Then we get it off into the fridge.
And you mentioned the garnish are not like toss it off, but they're meant to look beautiful.
An open-faced sandwich in Scandinavia is called smørbrød, and the idea is a piece of bread, some meat, and some garnish. And the garnish is very appealing to the eye, but also very appealing to the palate. So you want to be able to complement the sandwich and be able to use the garnish and eat the garnish with the sandwich.
And some more, oh my goodness, these look amazing. And so this one has some salmon on it.
We have smoked salmon with a dilled salmon curd creamed sauce, as well as some egg and cucumber on this one. We have an Icelandic meat called rulapulsa, which has lamb and spices, and it's just a beautiful flavor to it. It's topped off with peas and carrots. And then we have roast beef, which is very popular in Scandinavia, with a pickled red onion, arugula, and a horseradish on top. And again, everything just goes together very, very well flavor-wise.
And with the cheese here, you're speaking my language. You got cheese from a couple of the countries.
Cheese is my language too. We've got Havarti and blue cheese from Denmark. We've got Gjetost, which is the brown cheese. It's got a nice peanut flavor from Norway. We've got Prast cheese from Sweden, which is a little bit of a stronger flavor. And then in the little dish, we've got Skier, which is from, I probably said that wrong, sorry, all the Icelandic people in the world, from Iceland. And it's a very creamy texture to it, and it's eaten with cream and sugar with a spoon.
And the herring, you can't go wrong with the herring, and you have a trio here.
Absolutely, our herring is all made in-house, and we have curried herring, we have mustard herring, and we have herbed herring, which is all made with fresh herbs that we have.
And really quickly here, what is this delicious dessert?
It's called Lefse, and it's a Norwegian one, and it's eaten many ways, but we're serving it with cinnamon sugar. So Danny is basically buttering the Lefse and then sprinkling cinnamon sugar and rolling it up. We make about 200 of those a day. They're so popular.
And the little ones, the little volunteers start with that. We don't have time to get to the last desserts, but they're amazing. Stick around, guys. We're going to be hearing about more of what they have planned here at the Scandinavian Pavilion, so stay tuned.
Looks delicious. Thanks.
Katherine Dow, she's at the Scandinavian Pavilion this morning as we continue to tour Folklorama. What's happening down there?
We've learned about a couple of the other cultural displays because there are 5 under one roof. Now we are in the Icelandic cultural display. Joining me now are the adult ambassadors, Sonia and Ingrid. Ladies, thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Nice to be here.
So the theme this year is all about explorers. Tell me about the Icelandic Explorers that you guys are celebrating
That's
here.
Bjarne Tryggvason, and we're so delighted to have champion him as an Icelander, presently living in Ontario and been leading astronaut in our more recent times as explorers. We're also delighted to champion our Icelandic room here with many of the things that you've already seen.
And so you said it goes all the way back from historic times to current space travel, so it's many frontiers.
Right, from the 600s to present day time. We've always had that spirit of the Vikings to get out there and explore our country and find the exciting things that are there.
Wonderful. So now we're going to trek over to Finland. We don't have to take a plane. It's just a quick little jaunt in the Scandinavian Cultural Center just next door. And we're going to be hearing about, it's not the traditional explorer, but it's a cultural exploration that's being celebrated here. So Ingrid, why don't you tell me about a little bit about what's on display here and what you're celebrating in this display?
So Elias Lönnrot, what he did was he traveled Finland, and most people at that time just told stories, verbally. So what he decided to do was write it down. So he published the Kavala, and so that throughout history that his people could read the poems and stories that were previously only told verbally.
So Sonia, you were telling me off camera about the spirit of the pavilion. What do visitors feel when they come here?
We're a big Scandinavian family, and we've been coming together now for 49 years through Folklorama, and every year we look forward to meeting our fellow Scandinavians and party and celebrating everything about our culture when we get together, and then sharing it with others. Like, what can be better than singing and dancing with other people to share what you feel so passionately about? That's been such a part of our lives.
Well, it's all about the sharing, and coming up a little later on the show, we're going to be telling you how you can come down here, when the show times are, and what exactly they have taking the stage.
All right, thanks for that, Katherine.
With Katherine Dow, we're learning all about the Scandinavian Pavilion. What's happening down there?
Well, so if visitors who come to the Scandinavian Pavilion get this kind of little passport, because it's 5 countries under one roof, and you get a stamp for every cultural display that you visited. So I stamped my last one just now. We're at the Denmark cultural display. Joining me now are the adult ambassadors, Sonia and Ingrid. Thank you, ladies, so much for joining us this morning.
Pleased to be here.
So the theme of the cultural displays is all about explorers. So we're paying tribute to one specific explorer here in the Danish cultural display.
That's right, the Jens Munch expedition that happened in the 1600s, and next year they landed in Churchill, and we actually have a Jens impersonator here at our exhibit, and next May we're going to be celebrating that adventure the Danes made with an international conference with friends coming from Denmark and around the world, plus across Canada, and then part of the conference, we'll go up to Churchill, to the actual place where Jens Monk and all his explorers were in northern Canada, near Churchill.
So you can learn all about that history here, but of course candy is also a big part of Danish culture, and we have some candy imported and homemade, right, Ingrid?
Yes, they make them before the Folklorama, and then they also, you can buy some direct from Denmark that they brought in.
And these hard candies are a big part as well. Is that right, Sonia?
Definitely. Oh, we love our candies. And the salted licorice is the famous one that every country has its own version, but Denmark's really has this version. And we all got our special chocolate bars. Remember, we got to have those chocolate bars. And I do say we do like the sweets, you know. Every afternoon you have to have a little sweet.
I agree with that. So before we say goodbye, Ingrid, just let people know how they can visit the center here. Where are you located and how many shows do you have?
We have 3 shows. We're located at 764 Erin Street. You can, if you're coming off Portage, you can go into St. Matthews and go down Erin. It's a one-way. Our shows are at 6:45, 8:15, and 9:45. You can buy tickets through folklorama.ca, or you can walk up to the door and buy tickets.
Alrighty, guys, lots of fun going on here, so you got to check out the Scandinavian Pavilion. I've had too much candy. I'm too excited. It's a lot of fun.
Good, Katherine. I'm glad you've indulged. It's just a fabulous pavilion to have been at this morning. Thanks so much for that. Have a lot of fun. Out on the river.